Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Tuesday on the Den. It's me, JD. Let's get it going. Okay, so this week is LGBTQIA Topics Week, and I thought it would be a good opportunity in light of some conversations. I just heard, I think, a car accident happened outside. I live in a very tiny town, so even the dog is freaking out about it. Get him. Anyway, it is LGBTQ Topics Week, and I've seen a lot of this discussion happening a lot, particularly on social media, but also on YouTube channels and in private conversations and on other platforms, not just on Facebook, what it means to be a member of a marginalized group and representing the greater cause of being marginalized in today's society. So the reason that this topic came up for me was I had seen some people online that were talking about the upcoming election here in the States, and there's this sort of weird balance right now between people who are saying who should have the loudest voice, whether or not people should have the loudest voice, who can claim that they should have the loudest voice, and it's become this sort of infighting that is doing much more harm than good. My kind of perspective on it is that we need to look at marginalized groups throughout the world, really, not just in American politics, but make sure that we're amplifying causes that have a real lasting impact in not only the moment, but for years and decades and generations to come. When I sort of bring my voice to the table as a gay person, somebody that has a disability, I have PTSD, I weigh my marginalization against another group's sort of perspective on certain topics, and I make sure that my voice in that conversation is going to be beneficial or if it's going to be detrimental to the cause. Most recently, I have seen a lot of discussion about who should run for office, who's going against who in the primaries. Here in Minnesota, if you haven't been watching too much politics, which I don't blame you if you have not, but late last fall, Senator Al Franken resigned from the United States Senate in light of some allegations against him for sexual misconduct, and our Lieutenant Governor, Tina Smith, was appointed by our Governor, Mark Dayton, to succeed him until the special election, which is taking place this fall. Here in Minnesota, politics is a huge thing because this year not only do we have 2 senators in the United States Senate that are up for re-election, which is a huge deal, making all of our federal offices open for re-election. Our governor, our lieutenant governor, our state auditor, our state attorney general, our secretary of state, our entire Minnesota House of Representatives, there is a lot on the table here. So it's making sure for me that marginalized groups are heard. Now, as a LGBT person, I know that it is important for us to speak up and speak loudly about issues that impact our lives as queer people throughout the world. But at the same time, we need to realize that there are some narratives that are being pushed louder than others in this election cycle that we need to be able to focus on. And I know that that could be considered a very, very controversial statement to say that we don't need to worry about LGBT rights, because that is not what I'm saying at all. We should always support a candidate that is going to be beneficial to our individual needs as queer people throughout the world. But more importantly, we need to look at specific topics as they arise. You don't want to show up to a bowling tournament and only be prepared to play rugby and just talk about rugby the entire time, which, let's be honest, is something I'm going to do because I am loving this season in rugby. Even though last week I got burned to a crisp and I've injured myself, it's been a real good time. But that being said, if a specific topic is being discussed, such as survivors of sexual assault, while I'm somebody who is a survivor of sexual assault, there are conversations to be had, especially in the last year, about women in the workplace, women being sexually harassed, when it's appropriate for a woman to be able to speak up about that topic. As a man, I don't want to interject in a conversation such as that to be able to say something like, well, from my experience, this is what's more important. Being marginalized is hard enough as it is, but being one marginalized group attacking another marginalized group does nothing for anybody that's marginalized through out the world, and it's important to know when our stories are appropriate to be told. This is not to say that we should not be sharing our stories with people. This is not to be said that we shouldn't be talking about these issues that are very, very valid issues to be talking about, but rather it's important for us to be able to use our experiences when it's most appropriate to use those experiences. And if that topic in specific that's being discussed or debated is not specifically relevant to our own personal causes, what we need to do as allies to everybody has an ally in someone. You know, I'm an ally, I believe in myself as an ally to women's rights, people who are disabled, to people of color, and I can't relate as a white man to those issues. So what I do is I ask those people, I ask women, I ask people of color, what can I do to amplify your voice? What can I do to amplify your problems and your concerns, so that when we talk to this candidate, or when we talk in a debate on Facebook, that I'm representing the best possible course of action for your group of people. Like, I want to amplify that. And I think that's often forgotten about in today's society, is that it can be selfish to only want to talk about our issues. And it's not against our nature to do that. It's very much so in our nature to talk about ourselves and our own needs and our inherent needs to survive. But it's also very important that we listen and we hone in on ideas and concepts and realities of other groups, especially those who are marginalized, and be able to amplify their voices and their concerns so that they are also being best represented in the most impactful and resourceful and effective and efficient and meaningful way. Sorry if this topic this week was a bit of a, I don't want to say it's a downer, it's just something that I think is really important, because politics is a huge part of my life. It is also a huge drain on my life. It is a huge factor in my mental health. I've struggled here and there because of the intensity of my political talk with people, and it demands such a huge, commanding part of my life that I have learned a lot in the last few years since running for office. For example, about how to best represent voices that I'm not necessarily a member of. Pretty much it is listen to their needs and amplify what they have to say. So at the end of the day, that's really my biggest piece of advice when we are talking about issues online, when we're talking about politics, when we're talking about candidates, is sometimes it's really good to just stop and listen and then amplify what you hear from these marginalized groups and how we can best serve them in the future. So being a queer person means that sometimes it's okay for us to stop, listen to the needs of somebody else, and just amplify the hell out of it, because there has been a lot of support for the queer community in the last few years. Not saying it's anywhere near perfect, but as gay people, especially myself, I want to be able to amplify the needs of others and not just focus on mine and mine alone. There is such a broader brush that needs to be painted for people's issues, and assuming that we're all going through the exact same thing at all times, it's naive and it's ignorant. Frankly, it's incredibly ignorant to assume that everybody's going through the same thing at the same time and that we all experience life the same way. We, put simply, don't. So I hope that kind of is a conversation starter for you. I hope you can take this video and you can share it with people, and you can talk about why you agree with me or why you disagree with me. And it's absolutely okay to disagree with me, and feel free to comment below on why you disagree with me. That starts healthy conversations, and that starts the discussions that we need to have in order to actually make impactful change in the world in the years to come. So I hope you guys have a great week. I love all of you, and I will see you later. Bye.